I used to think the worst thing that could happen to you was failing in public, being laughed at, being labeled as the guy who never quite made it. Turns out, I was wrong. The worst thing is realizing someone saw all your weaknesses, all your fears, and decided to use them against you. And, yeah, that realization didn't come gently. It came on a humid afternoon in a courtroom when I finally understood that the man who thought he'd won had actually been playing himself the whole time. Let me rewind a bit because this story didn't start in a courtroom. It started years earlier when I was the kind of guy people dismissed without even trying to hide it. I grew up being told I was average forgettable, not the one you bet on. Teachers didn't expect much, bosses talked over me in meetings, relatives compared me to cousins who were doing better, earning more, living louder lives. You know how it is. Nobody punches you, nobody screams at you, they just quietly decide you don't matter. And after a while you start believing it yourself. By my mid-30s I was exhausted. Tired of being polite, tired of being overlooked, tired of watching people who cut corners get ahead while I played by the rules and fell further behind. When I finally tried to break out on my own, started a small business. I thought this was it, my moment. Instead, it collapsed. Bad timing, bad partners, bad luck, pick one. I borrowed money trying to keep it alive, telling myself I'd fix it next month, then the month after that. Next thing I knew, I owed people who didn't believe in second chances. That's when the fear set in. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, but the quiet, constant pressure that sits on your chest when you wake up and doesn't leave when you go to sleep. I was scared, broke, and invisible. And in that headspace, when someone finally noticed me, really noticed me, it felt like oxygen. Her name, well, I'll call her Maya. She was everything I wasn't. Confident, successful, self-made. The kind of woman people listened to when she spoke. I met her through a work event, barely expecting anything, just another room where I'd blend into the background. But she talked to me, asked questions, laughed at my dumb jokes. And, for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Now, here's the part that's uncomfortable to admit. I wasn't honest with her. Not at first, not fully. I didn't lie outright, but I edited myself. Made my struggles sound temporary, my failures sound like lessons already learned. And she believed me. Or maybe she wanted to. We both wanted something. She wanted someone who didn't see her as a walking bank account. I wanted someone who made me feel like I wasn't a lost cause. The relationship moved fast. Too fast, if you're asking me now. Back then, it felt like destiny finally cutting me a break. We talked about building a life, about safety, about how scary the world could be if you were alone. And somewhere along the way, I started noticing things. Little comments, subtle control, questions about my finances, my debts, my insurance, framed as concern, always concern. "I just want us to be protected," she'd say, smiling, touching my arm. And I believed her because I wanted to. People love to say hindsight is 20/20, but in the moment you don't see red flags. You see explanations. You see reasons. You tell yourself you're lucky anyone cares enough to ask. So when she suggested certain paperwork, certain policies, I didn't argue. I trusted her. After all, she was the successful one, the smart one. I was just trying to keep up. Then things started feeling off. Conversations would end abruptly when I walked into the room. Phone calls she'd take outside. Attention I couldn't explain. I told myself I was paranoid, insecure, projecting my own failures onto her. That's what people like me do, right? We assume the problem is always us. Until one night, by pure accident, I heard the truth. I wasn't meant to. I was supposed to be asleep. She thought I was. I heard my name, heard numbers, heard laughter that didn't sound like love at all. She was talking about me like I was already gone, like I was a problem with an expiration date. I remember sitting there and the dark heart pounding so loud I was sure she'd hear it. I didn't confront her. I didn't storm out. I just listened. And every word peeled another layer off the person I thought I knew. She wasn't planning a future with me. She was planning an ending, one that benefited her very nicely. That's the moment something inside me snapped, not into rage but into clarity. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't worthless. I had been targeted, and once I understood that fear turned into focus. I reached out to the one person I'd spent years avoiding, my estranged parent. Complicated history. Lots of resentment, different worlds. But when I said I was in danger, that someone was trying to erase me, they didn't ask questions. They moved. Fast. What followed felt unreal, like stepping behind the curtain of a play I didn't know I was in. Investigators, lawyers, quiet conversations that ended with, "Don't worry, we've got this." I went back home and played my part. Smiled, laughed, pretended everything was fine, while evidence stacked up piece by piece. Phone records, documents, recordings. The same confidence she'd used to corner me was now working against her. She thought she was smarter, thought she'd already won, and honestly, that arrogance was her biggest mistake. The day it all came apart wasn't dramatic at first, just a courtroom's stale air bored faces. She sat there, calm, composed, absolutely sure the system would back her story. Then my name was called, and then I stood up, alive, very much alive. The look on her face is something I'll never forget. Not anger, not sadness, just shock, like the ground had disappeared under her feet. Evidence was presented, recordings played. Her words echoed back at her, stripped of charm, stripped of excuses. She tried to talk her way out of it, tried to pivot, to explain, to minimize. But there's a moment when the room stops listening, when the narrative you built collapses under its own weight. That was her moment. Watching her get escorted out, I didn't feel triumph the way I thought I would. I felt relief, like I could finally breathe without checking over my shoulder. Justice isn't always about cheering. Sometimes it's just about surviving and knowing the truth is out there, undeniable. After everything, people started treating me differently. Not because I suddenly became impressive, but because my story forced them to reconsider their assumptions. The quiet guy, the average one, the person they didn't think was paying attention. Turns out, being underestimated can be a strange kind of armor. I rebuilt slowly. Therapy, work, learning to trust my instincts again. Learning that being kind doesn't mean being naive, that vulnerability isn't weakness, but it does require boundaries. Now here's the part that always sparks arguments when I tell this story. Was I wrong for not seeing it sooner? Maybe. Was she evil, or just desperate and greedy in a system that rewards those traits? I don't know. What I do know is that society loves clear villains and clear heroes, and real life almost never gives you that. So I'm curious what you think. Was